Thank you, Greg. Today we're going to hear from the new president of the Evergreen State College, and he's going to give us some ideas about his visions for the future of the college and some of the ideas that he has that he might like to make changes in. I'm going to tell you a little bit about George Bridges. Came to Evergreen after serving for 10 years as president of Whitman College in Walla Walla. He previously served as dean and vice provost of undergraduate education at the University of Washington, where he's also served as professor of sociology. After earning his undergraduate degree in 1972 from UW, he pursued his graduate studies at the University of Pennsylvania. There he earned his master's in criminology and a doctorate in sociology. Prior to pursuing an academic career full-time, Dr. Bridges worked as a social scientist in the staff office of the Attorney General of the United States. In this capacity, he assisted in the design and implementation of research programs on federal law and justice policy. Dr. Bridges has taught and lectured in many universities, holding faculty appointments at American University, University of Maryland, Case University, Reserve University, and the University of Washington. He's also testified numerous times before legislative bodies, including the U.S. Congress, Washington State Legislature, and the U.S. Civil Rights Commission, primarily on subjects pertaining to legal policy and treatment of racial and ethnic minorities in the administration of criminal justice. During his tenure at the UW, he received 6 awards, including its most prestigious teaching prize, the Distinguished Teachers Award. He's the recipient of nearly 20 research grants and contracts from such prestigious national organizations as National Institute of Mental Health, National Institute of Justice, the Pew Charitable Trusts, and government agencies and commissions in Washington State. Research has sparked legal efforts in juvenile and criminal justice nationally and in Washington State. He's also authored or also co-authored dozens of peer-reviewed articles in leading professional journals, in book chapters, government reports, and professional papers. He also has published several books, including Inequality, Crime and Social Control, a 3-volume series, Crime and Society, and a book commissioned by the American Sociological Association, Teaching and Learning in Large Classes. He also served as a deputy editor of Criminology, the leading journal in his area of specialization. He currently serves on the board of directors of the College Success Foundation. He previously served on the board of the National Association of Independent Colleges and Universities and the Independent Colleges of Washington, also the Northwest Athletic Conference, and the Walla Walla Valley Chamber of Commerce. So this guy's been busy. So let's hear what his vision is for his new undertaking as president of the Evergreen State College. Let's welcome Dr. George Bridges.
Well, thank you, Larry. That was far longer than I'd hoped it would be. I appreciate the words. I wish half of it were true, but most of it is true. I'm so glad to be here. Rotary was very important to me when I was living in Walla Walla, and was a very active member. It took me a while to get my blue badge, though. 8 years. I'm busy, I'm busy. And they were let's just say they were very forgiving of my schedule. First, I'd like to acknowledge my colleague, Lacey at Evergreen, one of our lead staff members and a very important person to our college, and delighted to know that she is a member or becoming a member. And then Riley Moore is one of Lacey's and St. Martin's superstars. You probably all know that. I heard about him when I first came here, about the work he does with students, doing research on the economic impact of the area changes and making information available to not just Lacey, obviously, but the entire South Sound, about the vitality of the area and the strength of its economy and emerging work. So Riley, thank you for your good work. Many of you think you know Evergreen State College. I know you do. Are there any Greeners in the audience? Yeah. Great. Any UW Huskies? Okay. How about those Cougars? Got any Cougars in the audience?
You bet.
Okay.
Go Cougs.
Last question. Any Whitman missionaries? All right. How come you're not wearing a Whitman shirt, dude? That's okay.
He'll get fined for what he's wearing.
I'm sure. When I first became a college president, I asked the then president of the University of Washington, Mark Emmert, who's now the president of the NCAA, I said, what does it take to be a good college president? He said, oh, it's an easy job. There are only three things. There's only three things you need to do. He said, the first thing is, you got to make sure you have parking for the faculty. They always complain about parking. Now at Evergreen, $2 a day. That's a pretty good deal. I'm going well on that. Number two, he says, you got to find ways for students to have romance. What do you do about that? I didn't know what to do about that, and I'm still trying to figure that one out and staying away from it at the same time. And he said, and the last thing that's most important is you got to have a successful football program for the alumni. And I want to tell you, Evergreen's football program is undefeated in 50 years. So 2 out of 3. It's actually a great job, and it's actually more complicated than what Mark said at the time. Someone said, you've gone to Whitman, you spent 10 years there, you had a great experience, and I really did. It's a great college, right? Right. Why would you want to go to Evergreen? And I grew up in the Northwest, a Seattle native, and Evergreen was launched when I was about heading off to graduate school. And I've always been fascinated with the place because it offers a completely different model of education. And at the time it was described as radical and alternative, and the first president, Charlie McCann, defined Evergreen in these words. It is 4 no's and hippies. 4 no's. No grades, no majors, no faculty rank, no requirements. That's probably not the best way to market a product or a college. But in a way, that was the reason it was created. It was created as an alternative under the mandate of the legislature. They wanted a different kind of school. And so, as I came back, and I was actually thinking when I was at Whitman that I would retire after that job. It was a long run and a very successful one. I couldn't resist the temptation to look at Evergreen, in part because I've been fascinated with what the hell is going on at that school. I really wondered that. And yet, I'm still wondering, having been there now 7 months, what amazing things occur there. Our students are among the most curious, creative, and arguably interesting students I've ever worked with. They come from really interesting backgrounds. Many of them, which is a fascinating story and success, have failed at other schools. It hasn't worked for them, the traditional model. And when they come to Evergreen, they find themselves and they produce incredible work. Quick story. One of the staff members at Whitman told me when I was leaving, he said, you know, my son flunked out of Whitman 3 times. Nobody flunks out of Whitman 3 times. And I said, so where'd he go? He said, he went to Evergreen. I thought, this is going to be, I want to hear how this story ends. So his son moves to Olympia, the South Sound, goes to Evergreen, and the first time his dad saw him here was, he said, I feel smart again. It's an open environment in which students can explore, study, and learn in new ways. The beauty of Evergreen is now every college wants to be like Evergreen. Every college wants to produce courses that aren't so narrow and so focused on the basics of economics or the basics of mathematics. They want to offer interdisciplinary learning. And what that means is this. At Evergreen, we focus on big issues, big problems. Did anyone ever take a philosophy class in college? Anyone? Right. I took a few myself. So imagine a traditional philosophy class looking at epistemology, how we know what we know. A lot of basic texts, ancient Greek writers, modern writers think different ideas about that. Here's epistemology at Evergreen. It's taught by a music professor, a marine biologist, and a philosophy professor, all in the same classroom. How do we know what we know? Well, they say we know what we know from different sources. We know it from scientific facts, we know it from ideas, and we know it from the senses. Hearing, sense of smell, sense of touch. Knowledge comes from many sources. It isn't just a concept. It's the product of experience. At Evergreen, we teach around problems and issues rather than narrow subject matter. And what happens to our students? The graduates are among the most successful people I've met. They are everywhere. They are inventors. They are leaders in business. They are leaders in government. And they're all the same. They're creative. They think out of the box. And they're problem solvers. It's been an amazing education for me to come to a school that has very few rules. Very few rules, no requirements. And yet it produces, for a certain kind of student, perhaps the most amazing education you can imagine. Now, some students take advantage of that. You could cruise through Evergreen and not do a whole lot of work. But if you take advantage of the education, you will become like one of our graduates who just sold her business for $1.5 billion. I'm hoping that'll translate into gifts. It already has. She's an amazing person. So, what is my vision for Evergreen? The first phone call I received when my appointment was announced was from my good friend, Adam Falk, who's the president of Williams College in Williamstown, Massachusetts. It is the wealthiest and most elite liberal arts college in the country. And his words were this: he wouldn't even let me say hello. He said, I am so excited for you. You're going to one of the best schools in the country. Evergreen's reputation in the East is superlative. We got some work to do here in the Northwest. We got some work to do here. But it's an exciting place. I'm learning every moment I have, and the future is bright. We have great students. Enrollment numbers are up, and they are doing good work. We recruit fine faculty, and what's impressive to me is you sit in one of those classes and you wonder, gosh, I wish I could have taken this class when I was in college. So I can go on forever about Evergreen. I'm very happy to let you know that we have many students who do service work and volunteer work right here in Lacey. South Sound Seniors, City of Lacey, a number of other organizations, the Nisqually Land Trust. All of these organizations we have students in working on behalf of their education and in serving Lacey itself and the surrounding community. My goal, if there is one for our community, is Evergreen's that college out in the woods. It's not very far away in terms of miles, but darn it, it just seems like it's in Tacoma or Seattle. People don't come to our campus as much as I would like. I bet you don't know that this quarter we have 130 performances on campus, in theater, in music, in the arts. I didn't even know that until a few weeks ago. That's just this quarter. We don't do a good job of telling the community what's going on and making it accessible to you. That will change. Next year, you will know. You will probably know more than you want to know. So my goal is to extend the college into the community, to find ways in which Evergreen can serve South Sound better than it has in the past, and to invite each and every one of you to campus to enjoy some of the great things we have going on there. So thank you. I'd like to take some questions and get a chance to hear from you about your ideas and issues. Who do I choose first?
Ladies first.
Ladies first, please.
I graduated from University of Washington in the science field, and so got a very traditional education there.
Yep.
About 10 years later, I got a degree in master's in public administration from Evergreen, again in a different style.
Sure.
So with those two backgrounds in mind, and watching how my own kids went through the education experience, one concern I have is that modern education techniques don't seem to, they seem to have lost the value of memorization of certain things. And in the STEM science field that I'm in healthcare, I don't have time to critically analyze the basic science of what I'm doing. I need to critically analyze the actual patient and their problem. So how is Evergreen and the education it teaches, especially to those that teach in the STEM field, going to deal with the need to memorize the basic science of what you're doing? Say surgery. You know, if I'm a surgeon, I don't want to learn surgery by just experimenting with it or going hands-on. I probably should memorize anatomy. And so if you don't memorize things and you only critically analyze, what's that surgeon to do?
Two responses. Good question first. Thank you. That's a great question. All the research on learning for adults right now tells us this. We all can memorize things. The question is, how long do we hold on to that knowledge? Not very long. But if you learn it in the context, the same information in the context of solving a problem, hands-on experiential learning, it is going to be remembered much longer. That's for fact one. The second thing I'll point out is that Evergreen, I'm embarrassed to admit, I did not know this until I got to the campus. It sends more students on to PhDs in the sciences than any of the regional colleges in the state. 3 times the number you'd expect, given the size of the school. So we don't have a problem getting students involved in the sciences, having them trained well, and going on for medical degrees or PhDs in the sciences. They do very well. So I think we're okay in that regard. The model of learning that they have is hands-on. The moment a student comes to Evergreen, they can access top-notch scientific equipment, hands-on, as a first-year student with no supervision. The most advanced scientific equipment you'll find on any college campus in the country. So it's learning by doing, and in learning by doing, you will develop, all the research suggests this, a much better comprehension of the knowledge you need. Not to say we don't always do it great, but I'm confident that we do it well. So, fair question. Yes, sir.
Well, one of the things that I learned about Evergreen in the last couple of years is it is one of the few, if not the only, college in the country that actually has a program to help dyslexics get over the, call it just what it is, the way they learn. It's different than the way I learn, because I'm not dyslexic. And Evergreen recognizes that, and I think you just mentioned part of it. Hands-on is what a dyslexic needs, not a book to memorize facts out of. That's not the way they learn stuff.
You're absolutely right, and you know what? Evergreen isn't for everyone. You know, we all learn in different ways. But for students who have those kinds of impairments, and I happen to be one of them, it is a perfect model of learning in which they can overcome sort of a textbook problem, the text-based learning that many of us have in college. And so I'm very proud of that fact, and I think part of the reason why our students who may have failed at other schools, who come here, come to Evergreen, is because they have those challenges and they flourish in that environment. The other kind of student we get, which is the opposite end of the continuum, is a student who has gone at the very top end in every level of every measure you can have, who may have gone to a Waldorf school or a Montessori school or home-based taught person. They just thrive, and they only apply to one school in the country, ours. It's really unique in that regard, and a source of great pride. Yes, from the missionary and back.
So I graduated from Whitman College in '96.
Yes, sir.
I was a politics major, but I had enough credits to minor in both biology and chemistry, so I had to go school year-round. In order to do that, I went to St. Martin's and Evergreen. The problem I ran into when I was going dental school was the grade system. Evergreen doesn't give out grades.
No.
So they gave out, I had asked my professors for what would this be equivalent of, and there's universities out there that wouldn't accept that.
Right.
And it hurt me as an applicant to higher education. So has Evergreen gotten over that issue? I know in state there was a UW looked at it and said, yeah, we'll accept that. But out of state, they did not.
You know, I think we've gotten past all of it. I wish I could say we've gotten past all of it. For those of you who understand, how the heck can they not give grades? We give written evaluations. Every professor writes, like we, get in our professions, we get written evaluations of our performance. And so you get a written performance evaluation for every class that you take, every program that you take. And your transcript is basically a document this thick of written evaluations of your work all through college. Well, you can take that to an employer and they'll say, yeah, okay, I know what you can do now. And I'm not interested in your grades. But if you take it to a graduate school or a medical school 10, 15 years ago, they would say, what is this? How do we know how to position you relative to your peers? And I think we've gotten over that. We don't have any trouble getting students in a medical school and other graduate school, postgraduate programs now. But it's a curious issue for me as to there may be schools that just say, I can't deal with this. We got 10,000 other applicants. We can't read your file. And that's an issue that we've got to work on. Fair point. Other questions? Can I take one more, Greg?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I work with Superintendent Monhaus, and I know you all have talked about a possible teacher program, and you talked briefly about, you guys have a great education program, masters, but there's a teacher shortage, and a lot of high school kids are not going into teaching, and could you just briefly address maybe?
Absolutely. We have a huge teaching shortage in the state. It's just frightening. And we have a master's in teaching program that is very rigorous. You have to have 2 separate practice teaching sessions in schools before they even give you your degree. What we're doing to address that, though, is, and it's a full-time program, so you can't do anything else, right? Well, how many people have that opportunity, that privilege? So what we're doing is we're building an alternative model that will allow students right out of high school, not out of high school, out of college, to jump in on a part-time basis and pursue their degree that way to expand the reach of the program. We have to. It's the need of the state. So we will modify the program. We'll still keep the full-time model, but we're going to expand it in new ways so that people who can't devote all their time for 2 years to this program can get a master's degree.
Do you have any thoughts on how to get more high school kids interested in being teachers?
No. I know. I love teaching. It's the joy of my life. I don't know why people don't want to be teachers. I think part of it has to do with compensation. Part of it has to do with public schools are tough in many areas. It's tough to teach there. You're welcome. Thanks for the question. Thank you for hosting this. I appreciate the
Very interesting presentation. Nice perspectives. I think maybe we ought to have him back in a while so we can dig a little bit deeper. I was pleased to see your sense of humor, because this group has a sense of humor. I noticed you have philosophers from a variety of backgrounds. Look at all these philosophers. And you don't need to ask them, how do we know what we know? Their specialty is why should we care? Anyway, glad to have you here. We have a special relationship with the South Sound Reading Foundation here in town. We gift to them regularly, and we also gift a book in the name of every speaker to the South Sound Reading Foundation, and it goes to a young child. And we try to get a book that matches what you're doing. And the one we came up with this time is the Berenstain Bears, which little kids really love. And it says, "Go to school. Be a teacher." Just kidding. So anyway, what we'd like you to do is sign this, and it has your name on it, and go to a kid. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I've read this book to my kids for so many years. I love the Berenstain Bears, so this is perfect.
Oh, I just noticed he's left-handed. That makes you very extra special, but yeah, I am too. It makes you extra special this morning. That's the way to go. Thank you.